fellows, the global economic landscape has been changing rapidly, with various factors such as inflation, technological advancements, and geopolitical tensions influencing national economies. So today, we have someone who can give us the economic insights, the former Prime Minister of Thailand, คุณอภิสิทธิ์ เวชชาชีวะ
As I mentioned, fellow, sitting right here next to me, the former Prime Minister of Thailand, คุณอภิสิทธิ์ เวชชาชีวะ สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
A great pleasure to have you on our show.
Pleasure to be here.
Finally, so many people are big fans of you, and they're sending our best regards. And to ask you that,
Well, please say thank you to them.
yeah, will there be any chances that you will come back and being a full-time politician again?
I wish I knew the answer. I don't. Honestly, I don't know. Do I miss the work? You know, I'm passionate about the country. I'm passionate about politics, about wanting to help change a number of things. But I have to be realistic about the political environment, about how we as a country are doing politics. And it's clear that the current environment is not really for me. But I don't know about future. So my answer is I don't know. But if I were to get back, I mean, I've said it many times, I don't think about forming a new party. I don't think about moving to another party. My only wish would be, do I have a chance to help the Democrat Party stick to its original ideology and perhaps be a force in Thai politics again?
Okay, so remains to be seen.
There's a slim chance, shall we say.
At first, I would like you to describe or define the situation right now about the political situation in Thailand.
I think we're still trapped by the same environment.
Okay.
So there's polarization, what you might call between the conservatives and the more progressive people. And the reality is they have also tended to become more extreme, less tolerant of each other. So there's no real space for a constructive dialogue on a number of issues. The political parties are divided along this line according to political convenience. So I think it would be very hard for supporters of the coalition parties now to argue that they are really together because they share the same ideology or framework in terms of how to deal with policies. It's just a marriage of convenience. And it seems that this division is going to continue until the next elections, despite the distractions of party dissolution, because the dissolved party simply re-emerges as a new one, but pretty much with the same people, with the same force. And therefore, the rest of the parties are still sticking together also so that they can remain in power.
Okay. But seems like young people...
So we're not moving anywhere.
Okay.
And the sad thing, of course, is that if we move on to issues like the economy, it's also clear that the country now needs key structural reforms, which would not be possible if the politics continues to be like this.
If you have to choose one thing or one organization that shall be reformed first, what would it be?
I think the issue is about the structure of the economy first and foremost. We need to talk about the need to upskill people, especially when our population is aging very fast. And there's even a bigger question of the geopolitical situation which has changed, which means that we no longer have the tailwind of globalization to support an economy which is as open as Thailand's.
Okay.
So there's no one particular issue.
Okay.
We almost need a revamp of the whole system in order to remain competitive and in order to create opportunities in the future, especially for young people. We should admit that Thailand has underperformed as an economy for almost a decade now.
Okay.
Our growth rate is below historical records and is actually one of the lowest in the region for quite some time. So this suggests it's not a question of just stimulating the economy or quick fixes. It suggests that we need to tackle some fundamental issues to become more competitive.
When you say fundamental, so do we need to dig deep to correct things up?
Well, we
Anything
need
in
a
particular?
direction to start with.
Okay, direction first.
Direction. And then, of course, to build a political consensus around that.
Okay.
So, for instance, if there is a need to re-regulate or deregulate on a big scale, maybe Parliament needs to talk about how we can facilitate that, because there are so many laws that need to be amended,
Yes.
and if you try to do it one by one,
Or it
you're
will
not going to be able to achieve a big impact. Whereas if we can come together and agree upon a procedure where we can overhaul some of these laws in a fast track manner, if you like. We have not seen any concrete steps
Okay.
taken to achieve that, a clear-cut solution in terms of how to do it. The idea is that I guess people can say, well, the government can just scrap some of the outdated regulations, but it may not be as easy as that, because regulations may relate to different agencies and therefore different laws. And if you try to, as I say, amend each law one by one, you won't be moving fast enough.
Okay.
That's just one issue. I'll give you another example. We talk about big data, how that is a very important asset now in these days. The government has the most data. They are still unable to share data even among their own agencies, let alone have an open data system for the public to access for certain purposes. We can't just amend the law one by one. We need a law that will set the whole framework about how government collects, retains data, and how it allows access, to balance between having a more open system without violating the privacy of personal data.
So you're admitting that our economy, Thai economy, is in trouble right now.
Yeah, I don't think many people will argue with that. It's
Okay.
just maybe a different diagnosis. Some
Yes.
people think, there could be quick fixes, just stimulate the economy, have
Yes.
a big mega project. I don't think that. I think the more important issues about regulatory framework, about the skills of our people, about competition law is
Okay.
probably the key. People talk about lost decades. So there's something there that needs
To be
different
prepared.
thinking
Yes.
in order to pull it out of
Okay.
the trap. So we talked about earlier about politics being trapped. Our economy is also being trapped.
That means you don't agree with the policy, the digital wallet.
I think there is a good reason to provide additional income to those most in need.
Okay.
The poorest, the people who lack purchasing power and are burdened by the amount of debt that they have. But the digital wallet policy is conceived as giving everybody the money, at first at least.
Yes.
And I think that's not a wise use of that amount of money, because I think a lot of money that would be spent is not really helping, making a difference for a lot of people who will receive it. You can sort of see how most people will take the digital money and then, for reasons of convenience, just spend it at the convenience stores.
Yeah.
Or the bigger retailers, right? So that could actually perversely have an adverse effect on the smaller retailers,
Local retails. Yeah.
local retailers. And also, even it's 10,000 baht, it could actually last 3-4 months, where people might stock up on consumer goods. And therefore, the smaller shops will probably find themselves in real difficulty if they don't join the scheme or able to attract the people to go there.
So you're saying that there's a flaw in this policy that to be careful.
I have sympathy in the sense that it is a sort of flagship campaign policy. They need to go through with it.
Okay.
My own belief is that they hadn't thought it through when they put this forward.
Okay.
And I guess they are trying the best they can to stay legal and also to adapt to some of the criticisms. So for instance, now that they've at least taken out the wealthiest people, I think that's a good move. But still, you can't help but think that with this amount of money, it could be better spent.
Yeah. What do you suggest to this government? Because they seem to focusing on one policy, one big policy.
Well, my hope is actually, I mean, I said this to some people in government that I saw earlier in the year. I said, look, just get it done. You know, because I think it's been a distraction for so long. I think once it's done, my hope is that they can perhaps move on to the more significant issues that we talked about today. The fundamental issues, and start looking at those now that they've been able to fulfill the flagship campaign policy.
There will be like enough budget remains to do such things.
Well, not all the things we talk about require budget, you know, especially when we talk about regulatory changes that cost almost nothing. Even when we talk about competition law, again, that doesn't cost much. Upskilling, reskilling, maybe, but you know, you can somehow invite or try to provide incentives for the private sector to do this, because frankly speaking, I don't think the best people to upskill people would be government agencies anyway.
Yeah.
It would require, you know, enterprises, particularly in the private sector, who
just
provide
have
a
to-
service. For instance, instead of giving 10,000 digital baht, give them a coupon.
Yep.
And they can spend that to learn foreign languages, computers,
For education.
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of all the regulations, many people, SME in particular, well, especially they're quite concerned about the influx.
Well, they should be.
Yeah, the influx of the Chinese money,
sure.
legal or illegal. So, what do you suggest?
Well, let's separate out the illegal parts.
Okay.
Should just be dealt with by efficient enforcement of the law.
Okay, so we should separate. If it's
Well, the illegal parts should be dealt with efficient enforcement of the law. I think that's conceptually not difficult, but Thai society,
reality.
Thai society has had problems with this issue. So
Yes.
you have to get that
Big
get the house
issue
in
as
order.
well.
as
Okay.
it were. The more difficult part is the legal part, if you like. And the reason is this. There is a new sort of, well, not exactly new, but it has become more pervasive. A business model where big companies, platforms are willing to make huge losses simply to capture the market. And then once they've captured the market, they will start trying
dominate.
they will begin to try to look for a way of making profits. But along the way, they're killing off so many competitors. Now, that is, I guess technically, it's called predatory pricing or behavior, which is one form of anti-competitive behavior. The difficulty is this: unlike when a monopoly exploits its power, where consumers complain because then they are buying more expensive goods or they are trapped or
They
locked
have no
into a particular
choices.
product, this practice is actually something consumers want because they can buy cheap. So politically, it's more difficult to tackle this. They have to find a way of setting rules about competition, which I think is needed anyway, because we talked earlier about one of the issues, which is that there is now huge concentration of economic power in the hands of very few. And frankly speaking, with all respect to the people involved, the people in charge of competition law simply are not up to the task now of helping create a level playing field and protect consumers in the long run. And they're often trapped by old thinking. You know, any complaints about monopolistic practices, the first thing they have to do is to determine whether there is dominant market power. And then they start arguing about whether this market share is this or that. I think we need to do away with all that. We should just consider the practices that are being made. If it's competitive in a sense that it's unfair to either competitors or to consumers, you don't even have to look at their market share. You just say these practices should not be allowed.
okay.
All right?
Yes.
So I know some countries, the West, use tariffs.
Yeah.
All right?
Tax war.
Some
yeah.
of the countries in the region begin to do the same, but they're getting complaints from consumers because consumers feel, especially after they've just had inflation following COVID, that they have access to cheap goods. Why deny them? So I think that you have to come up with maybe a more imaginative or creative set of policies. I mean, just a quick thought. Maybe you could say that if you're prepared to run losses like this, you're undercharging for some services. Maybe the government has to say, if you're charging consumers like this now, you're not allowed to raise your prices for another 5-10 years or whatever.
Okay.
Or there are criteria by which you can only up your prices or charges if there are changes in costs.
Okay.
So this, I think, I hope, will deter the practice that, never mind, we can run up billions of baht losses for 2-3 years to capture the market and kill off competition.
And in the overall pictures, you think by the end of this year or even next year, Thai economy will get better or not?
I think there will be a temporary effect from the digital wallet because people will spend before the end of the year quite a lot of money. I'm afraid my assessment is that that's going to be short-lived. So maybe by the second quarter of next year, we'll be back to where we were.
Okay.
And my concern, as I've expressed earlier, is that the smaller shops or the SMEs may not benefit much from the scheme. So as I said, it's really time to talk about the more difficult issues.
Yeah, and for those who probably watching this show and they are kind of wait and see what's going to happen next. So they're kind of scared of spending money. So what should they do?
I think at the moment, businesses must look to opportunities where there are genuinely new businesses or new sectors where there is still potential for growth.
Okay.
I think
For example?
the people who have real, the sectors related to technology, for instance, clearly has potential, quite a huge potential to grow. But the more traditional businesses are facing these structural problems. I hope that the various business organizations will step up to speak more about these structural issues, to draw attention of the government and demand that action is taken.
Okay, speaking of the government, so besides the digital wallet policy, what else do they should do right away?
There is strategic competition between other countries in the region as well. So we need to be aware of what they are doing to attract investment, able to at least try to match or say that we have just as good, if not a better deal for investors.
Speaking of the US, so do you think this year, the presidential elections, will there be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump come back again to be the next president? Who will win?
Well, you have to be very brave given the unpredictability of what's happened over the last few months.
Yeah.
But now the advantage is with Harris. She has the momentum. And unless something goes very wrong, or unless the Republicans can come up with a better strategy to deal with her candidacy, it's a complete change from 2 months ago, or a month ago, where most people felt that Trump has almost won the presidency. So if it is Harris, I guess we should expect continuity from the Biden presidency. And so, but in any case, the US will see Thailand and ASEAN as an important partner. At the same time, we do have good, strong relations with China. We still have to continue to retain that balance.
Okay.
With Trump, if he should win, it would be more unpredictable. But on the plus side, because he's not really trapped in any kind of ideological thinking, any kind of pragmatic win-win proposition that comes along, he will probably take it. So there are pros and cons on that particular issue.
So which one could be benefit goods to us?
Well, when you say us,
I mean Thailand. Yeah.
No, I think it depends on how we deal with either or both of them, right? I don't think it changes that much, but there are different ways of doing things with different personalities.
Okay. Same but different.
Yeah.
Okay. So remains to be seen as well.
Right.
Who we're going to be the next presidents. of the USA and talk about the new young generations. They seem to be so independent, and they kind of,
No, I think it's natural.
yes,
I think they value independence
yes,
and freedom. And their expectations of their career is so different from the older generations. They don't want to be part of a bigger organization system. They want to be their own people.
yes,
So they look for opportunities to become entrepreneurs. They don't think they should spend the whole of their life just in one particular
yes,
occupation. So they look for quick wins. You know, if they can succeed before they're 30, that's their dream. And once they succeed, they move on. Or if they don't succeed, they try again. And that also means that governments and education systems must cater to their needs, right? So, so education is not really so much about becoming particularly good at one thing, being specialists. It needs to be more multidisciplinary. It's no longer about providing information. You know, they have much, or they can access and get information far quicker than our generation. It's more about how they manage to filter that information, to adapt, and then to apply that information. So the education system has to change to cater for that need. And again, likewise, as they move on to their careers or businesses or enterprises, we need to have a regulatory framework that's friendly to that kind of environment.
If you were in the cabinet, so what do you suggest to the Prime Minister or the cabinet to turn them around to be their side?
I don't think the idea is to turn them around. I think the idea is maybe allow them to see the other side of the coin and make their decisions for themselves. I think you have to respect their choices. I just think at the moment, and to be fair to the young, the old suffer from the same problem. They are refusing to see the other side of the coin as well.
Yeah.
So I think if there is any suggestion to the Prime Minister or whoever, is we really badly need to create space where there is meaningful, constructive dialogue between the generations. And all issues must be able to be discussed, including the most sensitive ones.
Okay, give them space.
Yes, give them space, but it's not just give them space just for the sake of it.
Okay.
There has to be a genuine dialogue,
Okay.
so that we learn from each other. The first thing you have to ask is, what is the message?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that at the moment there is a message. So,
clear message to them.
so the issue of communication is not relevant. I think the government needs to decide, given that it's clear that the younger generations are not really responsive to their being in government or their policies, exactly what they want to say to the younger generations.
Okay. If you were a Prime Minister right now, what
Well,
would it be your message
I wouldn't really want to head this kind of coalition, so it's a difficult one to answer.
Okay.
But I think
What's your message?
My message is it's time for us to talk.
Okay.
It's time for us to talk about the more difficult issues.
That's the title of our show.
I know.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just saying that to please you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, it really is time. It really is time to talk. I don't see how the current divisions and the refusal to share space can be beneficial to anybody. And it could actually be rather destabilizing in the future. So it is time to talk, and there has to be that space. And if you ask, well, who's going to start? Well, I always say those in power and the older generations, they have to reach out. It's more natural than to ask or expect young people to reach out to the old.
Okay.
So
The old, so they have to
reach
lower
out.
their ego and reach out to the young.
they have to reach out.
Okay.
They have to be prepared to listen. They have to try to understand not just the messages, but the way young people communicate. You know, it's a different culture in terms of the language they use, in
Yes.
terms of the format they use. We have to learn to share this. And then perhaps begin to reason with them that if you agree with them, that's fine, but if you don't, why you disagree with them and why you think there are good reasons why they might want to reconsider or change their minds.
That's easier to be said than
It is
Yeah.
easier said than done, but
Yeah.
it's not as difficult as you think. It just needs a will and a determination and a recognition. And I think the most difficult thing, of course, is to convince your supporters.
okay.
Because we've now moved into a situation where the hardcore supporters just don't allow you to do anything else but remain firmly stuck on your side and be almost brutal with the opposition.
Okay.
So it's frankly speaking, I paid the price for trying to do that. I recognize it's not easy, but it has to be done. It needs to be done unless we want this division to grow and lead to instability in the future, which will not benefit either side.
So you learned from your past, and
Well,
you
I
regret.
I don't regret.
Oh, you don't regret.
I'm fine with where I am.
Okay.
I think I have a clear conscience about what I tried to do. I wish I'd succeeded. I didn't. I have to accept that, and I'm willing to accept that. So, but I don't want others to be discouraged from trying. And I know it's difficult because not just in Thailand, but in other countries, many centrists, whether right-leaning or left-leaning, are paying the price for trying to bring the two sides together.
Okay.
But I just cannot see how the current division, polarization will benefit anyone.
Let's talk about your nephew. He's a representative now. So
Yeah.
So have you
He's
two
doing-
been
he's
talking to
doing-
each
yeah,
other?
Yeah, we continue to talk
Okay.
on a regular basis.
Does he need any advice from you?
You have to ask him. No, we talk. We rarely disagree on issues. We may have disagreements on how things should be done,
Such
but
as?
just the style and
Oh.
maybe the steps of trying to reach a certain goal. But on the whole, we tend to agree on what needs to be done, and I think he's doing a good job. I think he's enjoying his political life, being in parliament, having a role in terms of policy design and formulation, which is something he's always wanted to do. So I'm happy for him, but of course there are going to be a lot of obstacles as he moves forward, and I wish him well.
Okay, that's good. Anything else that you would like to talk or say to the fans if they are watching our show right now?
Well, I hope I can talk to not just my fans, but people who disagree with me.
Good.
That since this program says it's time to talk, it really is time to talk, because there are so many issues that if we don't talk together and try to reach a consensus, we will be directionless and we will all suffer for it. The economy needs restructuring, the politics need restructuring, but the best form of restructuring is when we can agree on a direction that is needed and move together to make sure that that goal is reached.
It's never too late to talk
It's never too late.
and to correct things up.
Right.
It's not too late for Thailand to
No,
rise and shine
No,
again.
I truly believe that, because despite all our problems, you can see how so many people outside the country continue to be attracted by the country as a tourist destination, as a place to live in, the food, the people, the culture, the opportunities. But we could be, we could offer so much more.
Okay, thank you so much for joining our show. A great pleasure.
It's great.
And you are as sharp as you always been. Thank you very
I'm
much.
getting on.
Thank you very much. And this is the former Prime Minister of Thailand, Kun Abhisit Vejjajiva. Until next time, people, stay tuned and let's guess who's our next special guest on the next episode. See you.